The West African country of Mali was once hailed by the Chinese government as the gold mine of West Africa. But there, the situation for Chinese people has become a nightmare. Recently, the security situation in Mali has drastically worsened, with armed groups linked to al-Qaeda, such as the Support Group for Islam and Muslims, JNIM, repeatedly attacking Chinese-owned mining areas and factories. These groups engage in looting and have started targeting Chinese nationals for kidnappings and extortions. They even openly shout, "Chinese people, get out of Mali." Chinese-owned gold mines, cement plants, mining sites, and sugar factories have been attacked multiple times. Dozens of Chinese citizens have been kidnapped, and several have lost their lives. Equipment has been looted or destroyed. On August 1st, JNIM militants attacked a Mali army outpost near Dugabugu, claiming to have taken control, and also destroyed the local police station. They simultaneously attacked the Insukala sugar factory, kidnapping 6 Chinese workers. The attackers yelled, "Catch the Chinese," and then set fire to the factory. JNIM later claimed responsibility for the attack and released photos of the hostages, demanding a ransom of 100 million RMB. They threatened to kill the hostages if the ransom was not paid. The group has explicitly targeted military outposts and nearby economic infrastructure. The Insukala sugar factory is one of the few industrial projects in China-Mali cooperation and is Chinese invested. Late on August 2nd, the Chinese embassy in Mali issued one of the sternest evacuation orders in recent years, stating, "All Chinese enterprises must cease operations immediately and evacuate to the capital, Bamako. Those who refuse will face consequences." Earlier, on July 23rd, JNIM militants attacked a Chinese-owned gold mining operation in the Buguni region, setting fire to equipment and kidnapping 5 Chinese workers. The attackers seemed to know the layout of the mine very well, acting swiftly and leaving without a trace. An anonymous security supervisor shared on X that Mali's security department was completely unprepared. "We relied entirely on the local Chinese community and international security companies' networks for information." Mr. Xu, who works at a mining company in the area, told the Beijing News that the militants attacked around 3 or 4 in the morning, while most workers were asleep and had no chance to fight back. 2 of his colleagues were kidnapped and are still missing. The kidnappers have demanded a ransom of $3 million per person, and Mr. Xu expressed his helplessness, saying, "Who can come up with that much money?" On August 4th, the Chinese embassy in Mali confirmed that it had a record of all the kidnapped Chinese citizens, but did not provide any details on rescue operations. Earlier, on July 25th, JNIM militants launched an attack on a military camp in the eastern town of Futori, Burkina Faso, quickly overpowering the camp and stealing weapons, ammunition, and military equipment. On July 1st, a Chinese Malian joint venture cement factory in the Kais region of Mali was attacked by JNIM militants. 1 Chinese citizen and 3 Indian engineers were kidnapped. The construction site was set on fire, and machinery was destroyed. India media reported that the daughter of an Indian engineer who was kidnapped tearfully said, "My father had worked in the Middle East and Africa for many years. This was his first assignment in West Africa. But after his last phone call on July 29th, we've lost contact with him." Meanwhile, the Chinese embassy has done nothing but issue a hollow statement without any substantial rescue plans. The hostages are still missing. On June 12th, a Chinese-owned mining site in the Niarela region of Mali was attacked, causing significant material losses. On May 24th, another Chinese construction site in the Kayes region was attacked by armed militants. In Niarela, militants kidnapped 2 Chinese citizens on May 12th and set fire to several construction vehicles. The Chinese embassy had issued a warning on July 23rd, stating that the security situation in Mali was dire, with terrorist attacks and armed conflicts spreading. Kidnappings, shootings, and robberies have become frequent, and mining personnel and enterprises have become prime targets. The embassy urged all Chinese gold mining companies and personnel in Mali to report their status immediately, and called on illegal gold miners to cease operations and evacuate. The Chinese embassy in Mali issued a stern emergency evacuation order, instructing all Chinese enterprises to halt their operations and evacuate their personnel to the capital, Bamako, by September 30th. This sudden move has shattered the dreams of Chinese businesses, which invested $1.2 billion in Mali, with nearly 100 companies and the annual gold output of 36 tons now at risk. After receiving the evacuation order, many Chinese mining companies took drastic measures to destroy the equipment and to prevent it from falling into the hands of rebel groups.
Have you ever seen a company destroy its own equipment? Chinese gold mining companies in Mali did just that. They carried out a self-destruction operation worth thousands of millions. Earlier, the northern mining area of Mali was robbed by armed groups, causing significant losses. These militants even had the audacity to turn Chinese excavators into armed vehicles and used server data to plan attacks. After receiving an emergency notification from the Chinese embassy in Mali, Chinese companies acted overnight. 20 excavators were sunk into the river, hard drives were destroyed, chips were ruined, and photos of the mining sites on employees' phones were deleted. The estimated loss from this self-destruction operation exceeded 100 million yuan, but the Chinese company bosses believe it was worth it because in Mali, safety is the most important thing. If the equipment and data had fallen into the hands of armed groups, the consequences would have been unimaginable.
The evacuation process has been full of risks, with land routes passing through 400 kilometers of territories controlled by terrorist groups. The airports can only evacuate 500 people daily, far from enough to meet the demand. As of now, only 122 Chinese nationals have made it to the capital. Ironically, in 2024, China has sent 36 anti-ambush armored vehicles to the Malian military. Officers were seen proudly accepting these vehicles on camera. However, due to a lack of fuel and maintenance training, nearly 60% of these vehicles are now scrap metal. Before China's weapons had even been put to use, the terrorists had already retaliated, demanding that Chinese nationals leave Mali.
你来非洲是为了赚钱，但有人是为了把你来赚钱。
The kidnappings in Mali have caused panic among Chinese citizens working and investing there. One local blogger posted a video warning other business owners, telling them to be aware that they might become a source of income for others. The video described how on August 3, 2025, an extremist group released photos of 6 Chinese hostages who were abducted in the region of Serbala. Just 2 days before, another 4 Chinese workers had been kidnapped by the same group. Mali has seen a rise in kidnappings and attacks, with 342 incidents recorded in the first 7 months of the year, a 27% increase from the previous year. The blogger warned that a country's downfall doesn't come from poverty, but from the collapse of order.
Chinese business owners in Africa have also called for their government to ensure the safety of Chinese enterprises in the region.
还是撤了哈，这个不撤就等死。
We have to evacuate, or we'll be waiting to die. The situation in Mali is out of control, and Chinese companies have been specifically told to leave immediately. On August 2nd, the Chinese embassy in Mali issued an emergency notice, and this was no ordinary evacuation suggestion. It was a direct order. All Chinese companies must stop work immediately, and all personnel must evacuate right away. Not a single person can stay.
Since the 2012 coup, the security situation in Mali has steadily deteriorated, especially after French troops withdrew. Terrorist groups have expanded their influence, and now Chinese enterprises and their employees are primary targets. The social media posts even openly demand that Chinese people get out of Mali. Why are terrorists targeting Chinese companies in Mali? Simply put, it's all about the money. An anonymous project manager shared that recently there have been people on motorcycles constantly circling around construction sites. Local workers privately told him these individuals were scouting for targets, looking to steal equipment and kidnap people for ransom. After receiving the evacuation notice from the Chinese embassy, Chinese companies sprang into action. Some destroyed important documents, others removed the chips from expensive equipment to take with them. Some even went as far as sinking excavators worth millions of dollars into rivers, preferring to destroy them rather than leave them for terrorists to convert into armored vehicles. Now, most of the personnel have been evacuated through neighboring countries, but the process has been harrowing. Some online commentators sarcastically remarked, "No flag raised, no passport shown," calling for the wolf warrior Wu Jing to come rescue our people.
这次事件暴露出了一个大的问题。
This incident has exposed a major issue. How can Chinese companies protect themselves abroad? Western countries often send mercenaries, while China mainly relies on local police and security. But against fully armed terrorists, this clearly isn't enough. Experts argue that while China pushes its Belt and Road Initiative, it needs to seriously think about protecting its people and assets overseas. The chaos in Mali has affected more than just the local gold industry. Mali contributes 7% of the world's gold, and if Chinese-led projects stop, international gold prices will rise immediately. Worse yet, neighboring countries are beginning to show anti-foreign sentiment, and these ripple effects may impact the investment climate in the entire region.
How can the world's second-largest military power let things come to this? Where's our army? Where's our wolf warrior? Where's our aircraft carrier? Mali is rich in mineral resources, including gold, lithium, and iron ore. China has been investing in these sectors for a long time, especially in gold and lithium mining, road infrastructure, and agriculture. After Mali officially joined China's Belt and Road Initiative in July 2019, Chinese investments expanded, and Mali became seen as the golden frontier for the initiative. Mali holds about 900 tons of gold reserves and is the third largest gold producer in Africa, behind South Africa and Ghana. In 2021, Mali produced 63 tons of gold, accounting for around 7% of global output. By 2024, gold mining contributed 25% to the country's fiscal revenue, and over 80% of its export value came from gold, making it a vital sector for the economy. As a result, gold mining became a primary area for Chinese investments, attracting numerous state-owned enterprises and small to medium-sized private companies. Chinese companies own dozens of small and medium-sized gold mining projects in central and southern Mali, such as Nkase, Nioro, and Bougouni. These projects are worth about $1.2 billion, with an annual gold output of approximately 36 tons, accounting for more than half of Mali's total gold production. These operations mainly involve open-pit mining, with annual revenues ranging from millions to hundreds of millions of dollars. However, in the midst of Mali's political instability, the Chinese Communist Party's dreams of a prosperous Belt and Road has turned into a joke. Chinese companies are not only mired in security and policy problems, but are also viewed as plunderers by locals, becoming prime targets for kidnapping and robbery. To make things worse, on June 3, 2025, Mali's military government announced a suspension of all small-scale gold mining activities until September 30th. This shattered the golden dreams of many Chinese business owners. The new mining law, passed in 2023, already reduced profits for Chinese companies by requiring the government to hold 35% of shares and raising royalty fees from 6% to 9%. Now, with both security and policy pressures, all mining projects are forced to halt production. So, under the Chinese government's China-Mali cooperation banner, what's hidden are the massive financial losses and the lives of Chinese people hanging in the balance. Apart from gold mining, lithium is also a major investment focus for Chinese companies. For example, China's largest lithium producer, Ganfeng Lithium, invested over $342 million to acquire all shares of Mali Lithium through its subsidiary, Ganfeng International, establishing the Goulamina Lithium project. This project is touted as Africa's largest lithium mine, second only to Australia's Pilgangoora project. Goulamina, located in Bougouni, covers 100 square kilometers and has 211 million tons of ore, equivalent to 7.1 million tons of lithium carbonate equivalent. It started production in December 2024, with an annual output of 506,000 tons of lithium concentrate, with plans to expand to 1 million tons. The Chinese government has hyped up this project as a shining example of the Belt and Road Initiative. However, while Ganfeng Lithium technically controls the project, Mali's government has forcibly taken 35% of the shares. The Chinese government claims the project will secure resources and increase self-sufficiency, arguing that it will raise lithium's self-sufficiency from 40% to 70%, reduce costs, and dominate the global lithium market. However, this hides the real mess. While the transport line from Mali to China has been opened, security risks, policy pressures, and social conflicts have turned this African layout into a high-risk gamble. The attacks on Chinese companies by Mali's anti-government group, JNIM, are closely tied to the country's political chaos. Since Mali gained independence from French colonial rule on June 20, 1960, it has been plagued by internal religious and cultural conflicts, as well as external power struggles. Frequent coups and poor governance have made the country unstable. As the former colonial power, France had maintained a military presence in Mali for years, helping the government fight terrorism. However, in 2021, a coup backed by Russia overthrew the Malian government. The new military government turned towards Moscow, expelling the French ambassador in January 2022 and severing diplomatic ties with France. On February 17, 2022, French troops left, leaving a power vacuum. Russia's Wagner mercenary group quickly moved in, forming an African legion to assist the military government in suppressing the anti-government forces. However, in June 2024, they suffered a heavy defeat, losing 84 soldiers. Taking advantage of the chaos, China also moved in, claiming to promote cooperation and mutual benefit, while actually expanding its resource exploitation and geopolitical ambitions in Mali. China used the United Nations peacekeeping platform to send troops into Mali, presenting it as a humanitarian mission. But in reality, this peacekeeping was a cover for expanding China's military footprint. This type of military diplomacy not only boosted China's presence in the UN, but also paved the way for its military ambitions in Africa. Economically, China used massive loans and infrastructure projects to implement debt diplomacy, forcing the Malian government to make political and resource-based compromises. After Mali joined the Belt and Road Initiative in 2019, Chinese investments appeared to help Mali's development. However, in reality, these investments have plunged the country into a debt trap with no tangible benefits for the people. Worse still, in the face of frequent coups and the military government's anti-democratic actions, China did not condemn the situation. Instead, it quickly aligned itself with the military government, deepening cooperation. This interest-first, justice-last foreign policy reveals China's pragmatic approach. Any dictatorship that offers resources is a friend. The people of Mali struggle with terrorism, political instability, and economic hardships, while China focuses on exporting its authoritarian model and trying to create an international order that benefits itself. This has not only failed to help Mali achieve peace and democracy, but it has worsened the country's corruption, dependency, and governance collapse. The most tragic part is that China's checkbook diplomacy has stoked local anger against Chinese companies. The most ironic part is that China's checkbook diplomacy has stoked local anger against Chinese companies. While the gold mining projects contribute 9% of Mali's GDP, they have enriched Mali's elite, while ordinary people have seen no benefit. Chinese companies prioritize hiring Chinese workers, ignoring local labor needs. Their exploitative mining practices have caused severe pollution, but environmental restoration is ignored. Around 1 million people in Mali work in illegal mining, and the military government's crackdown has pushed them further towards anti-government groups. China's growing ties with Russia have further fueled resentment of anti-government forces. The recent spate of attacks on Chinese companies and kidnappings of Chinese nationals are the direct consequences of China's checkbook diplomacy. China's wolf warrior narrative has collapsed in Mali, leaving behind massive losses for Chinese companies and helpless cries from the Chinese people.